Hi everyone! This is Softschool educational project. I'm Kate and we continue our series of 3ds Max lessons. In this video, we'll find out the command panel, learn how to create objects and modify their basic parameters, work with spinners, and take a detailed look at working and navigating in viewports. There are time codes below the video for your convenience. Alright, I hope this video will be useful for you. Please subscribe to our channel for more updates, like it, and join us on Patreon for even more valuable 3ds Max content. You'll find the link in the video description. Learn easily with Softschool. So let's get started. And the first thing we are going to look at is the command panel. It allows us to create, modify, configure, and edit different objects. The panel is represented by 6 main tabs. The first tab is Create. Here we'll create objects. It contains several subtabs. The first subtab is Geometry. Here you can find all primitives. Most of the objects in our work will be built on their basis. Let's create a few, for example. Next is the Shape subtab. From here we'll create various splines. For example, a rectangle or a free line. The next important subtab are lights and cameras. And the last 3 include helpers and animation tools. It won't be useful for us yet. The next main tab is Modify. It used to configure the parameters of created objects and to work with modifiers. For example, we can create an object that will be more complex than standard box. To do this, I'll add the number of edges and apply a modifier, like twist. We'll discuss the topic of modifiers in more detail in the next lessons. Move on to the next main tab, the Hierarchy. Here we'll work with the pivot point, which is the center of rotation and scaling of the object. So these 3 tabs are the main ones for us, and they are the ones we'll use the most in our work. Now let's take a look at how to create objects and change their basic parameters. Go to Create, Geometry tab and select the box. To create a box, I hold down the left mouse button and holding it pull, creating the base of the box. Then I release the left button and pull the mouse freely upwards, forming its volume. Great! I left-click again and the box is done. To complete the box creation command or any other command in 3ds Max, simply right-click in the free space. To create a cone in the same way, I hold down the left mouse button and form the base. Release, pull the height, left-click, form the top of the cone, left-click, done! The sphere is created very simply in one movement. You need to hold down the left mouse button in the same way and pull until you are satisfied with its volume. Then release, that's it! Right-click to complete the command. In addition to the standard primitives, we can select other object categories from the drop-down menu. For example, extended primitives. There are a lot of interesting objects here. Now you can pause the video and try to create different shapes by yourself. Next, let's talk about working with created object parameters. Select the object we are interested in and go to the Modify tab. Here we can see the name of the object and change it if it's necessary. We can see its parameters below. In this case, these are the length, width and height, as well as the number of box segments. We can enter the necessary numerical volume manually, or we can hold down the left mouse button and drag the spinners. You can see that the object size is changing at some rate. If you want it to be faster, hold Ctrl. Otherwise, to make it slower, hold Alt. We can also change the number of segments. By the way, another useful feature is resetting the value to the minimum when you're right-clicking on them. In this case, the side of the box cannot consist of less than one segment, so the value is reset to 1. At the same time, the height of the box can be 0, so when we reset the spinner, a 0 value appears. This is very helpful and I encourage you to use this feature. Depending on the configuration of the object, the set of its parameters will be different. Now you can pause the lesson again and try to modify the objects you created earlier. So, I hope you've got it worked out. Next, let's take a look at working in the viewport. By default, 3ds Max opens 4 views: top, front, left, and perspective. It's indicated in the top left corner of each view. For my opinion, it's the most convenient combination of projections. But if you want to modify the workspace, you can easily do it. Simply open the viewport layout tabs and select the most appropriate configuration for you. Or you can click the plus sign, select Configure Viewports, Layout tab, and choose the configuration that suits you. Great, close it. The active window is highlighted with the yellow frame. To switch between viewports, left-click on the desired window. However, you may accidentally move some object when you switch windows. To avoid this, I recommend you to use the mouse wheel to switch between windows. Next, to expand the needed projection the full screen, use Alt-W. To switch to another view, minimize the projection and open another one, or use hotkeys. All of them are listed here in the drop-down menu. We can also change the view using the view cube. It's located in the top of the right corner of each projection. To optimize your workspace, I suggest you to right-click on it, configure, and in the View Cube tab, check only an active view. Apply? OK. Now the View Cube will only appear in the window you are working in and won't take up any space. The next thing we can adjust is the types and display styles of objects. Here, let's choose hidden line or clay. I usually use standard and clay or default shading. You can also use the F3 key to turn on and off the wireframe mode. The F4 keys turns the Edged Faces mode on and off. Great! Now let's move on to navigating inside the viewport. Scrolling the wheel allows us to zoom in or out from objects in the scene. The zoom point depends on the cursor location. To make zooming less jerky, use Ctrl plus Alt plus mouse wheel and move the mouse back and forth. This way we get a smoother and more comfortable zoom. If we hold down the mouse wheel, we can move around the viewport like this. To rotate, we hold down the Alt key and the mouse wheel. In this case, we can rotate around the whole scene, or we can select an object and rotate around it. If you move away from objects, you can quickly return by pressing the Z key. You can also use this key to focus on the desired objects by selecting it and pressing Z. All these combinations replace the navigation bar and allow you to work faster without having to use buttons every time, but using only key combinations. And finally, a few more convenient keys. The G hotkey hides the grid in the viewports. It's not always needed and they usually remove it to clean up the workspace. The 7 key turns the statistic display on and off. The number of polygons is a good indication of how loaded your scene is. You can also click the plus icon, configure viewports, and select the total plus selection checkbox on the Statistics tab. This way you can see statistics not only for whole scene, but also for each individual object. This is often useful when working with multi-polygonal objects and large scenes. And the last hotkey for today is Alt plus X. It makes object transparent. It's also useful at work. So, if you find this video helpful, subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. Leave your comments below and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Also, don't forget to check out our Patreon, link in the description, for even more useful and interesting content. Goodbye and see you in our next video.